The ship called Luminous Seeker moved slowly through the darkness of space. Captain Vexler sat in his command chair, his blue scales showing their age. He had seen many star systems in his long life, but this one seemed like all the others, just another stop on their endless journey of exploration. "Begin standard survey," he ordered. His voice tired from giving the same command hundreds of times before. The crew moved with practiced ease. They had done this many times. Scan the planets, check for useful materials, mark the system on their maps, and move on. No one expected anything different today. "Sir, I'm picking up something strange on the third planet," said Officer Meal, her eyes fixed on her screen. "There are structures on the surface." "Artificial structures?" Captain Vexler frowned. "That's not possible. This system isn't in our records. No one should be here." "The readings are clear, sir. Someone built things down there." The bridge grew quiet. Unexpected discoveries were rare and often dangerous. The captain moved to look at the screen himself, his old joints protesting as he stood. "Magnify the image," he ordered. The screen showed a collection of buildings nestled in a valley. They were simple but well made, with fields surrounding them and what looked like roads connecting different areas. "Life signs?" the captain asked. Officer Meal adjusted her instruments. "Yes, sir. Many life signs, and they appear to be—" She stopped, checking her readings again. "Sir, they appear to be human." A wave of shock passed through the bridge. Humans were thought to be gone. Their home planet Earth had lost contact with the rest of the galaxy over 300 years ago when the great network of space tunnels collapsed. No one had heard from them since. "That's impossible," said First Officer Zrell. "Humans couldn't have reached this system. It's too far from their home." "And yet the evidence suggests they did," Captain Vexler said quietly. He stared at the screen, his mind racing. If humans had survived here, cut off from the rest of the galaxy for centuries, what might they have become? "Prepare a landing team," he decided. "We need to see this for ourselves." Down on the planet, Jinha walked through the fields, checking the water pipes that kept the crops alive. The sun beat down on his back, making him sweat. This summer was hotter than most, but the people of New Hanseong had faced worse since landing here 200 years ago. Jinha's great-grandparents had been on the ship that crashed here after the space tunnels failed. They had been heading to a new colony world when something pulled them off course. With their ship damaged beyond repair, they had no choice but to make this planet their home. "Jinha!" a voice called. He turned to see Harin walking toward him, holding her data tablet. As the person in charge of growing food for the colony, everyone respected her opinion. "The eastern fields aren't doing well," she said, showing him the numbers on her screen. "The soil is getting weak." Jinha nodded. "I'll send more nutrients that way. We can't risk losing those crops. If we lose another harvest like last year, Harin didn't finish her thought. They both knew what it would mean. The colony had nearly starved last winter. A sudden loud noise cut through the air, a warning sound that neither of them had heard outside of practice drills. They looked up, shielding their eyes from the sun. Something was coming down from the sky. Something big. "Is that—" Haring couldn't finish her sentence. Jinha stared in disbelief. "It's a ship." All around them, people stopped their work to look up. Some fell to their knees. Others called out to friends and family. A few ran toward the colony center, while others ran away in fear. The ship was unlike anything they had seen before. It wasn't human-made, at least, not like any design in their historical records. It moved with a grace that seemed impossible. For something so large, descending slowly toward the open area just outside the colony's main buildings. "After all this time," Harin whispered, her voice shaking. "Someone found us?" Jinha grabbed her hand. "Or something." They watched as the ship landed, stirring up dust that had never felt the touch of anything not from this world. For a moment, everything was still. The colonists gathered at a safe distance, some holding farming tools as weapons, others simply staring in wonder. Then, with a soft hiss, a door opened in the side of the ship, A ramp extended to the ground. Quan, the colony's doctor, pushed his way through the crowd to stand at the front. As the colony's leader, it was his duty to face whatever came from that ship. Should we run? Someone asked from the crowd. Where would we go? Quan replied without turning around. This is our home. We stand our ground. A figure appeared at the top of the ramp. It wasn't human. It stood taller than any man, with blue scales covering its body and large eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Behind it came others, different shapes and sizes, but all clearly not human. The blue-scaled being walked down the ramp slowly, its hands empty and held out to show it carried no weapons. It stopped a few meters from Quan and spoke. The sound was strange, with clicks and tones no human throat could make. A smaller creature stepped forward, holding a device. It pressed some buttons, and then a voice came from the machine, a voice speaking words they could understand. We are representatives of the Galactic Confederation, the translation said. I am Captain Vexler of the survey vessel *Luminous. Seeker *. We did not expect to find anyone living in this system, especially not humans. Quan stood tall, though he was much shorter than the alien captain. I am Quan, elected leader of New Hanseon Colony. We are the descendants of the starship Hope's Promise that crashed here 200 years ago. The alien captain seemed surprised. The Hope's Promise was lost during the Great Collapse. It was heading to the Centauri colonies when all contact was lost. Our ancestors never reached their destination, Quan confirmed. Something pulled us to this world instead. We've been here ever since, waiting for someone to find us. Captain Vexler looked around at the colony, at the fields and buildings, at the people standing brave but afraid. You've survived here. All this time, cut off from the rest of humanity? We've done more than survive, Jinha said, stepping forward to stand beside Quan. We've made this place our home. The alien captain studied Jinha with those large, strange eyes. The rest of humanity believes your kind is extinct. Earth fell silent centuries ago. No one has heard from any human world since the collapse. A murmur ran through the crowd. Their worst fears confirmed they truly were alone. Then we may be the last humans in the galaxy, Quan said, his voice steady despite the weight of those words. But as you can see, we are very much alive. The aliens and humans stood facing each other as the dust settled around the ship. Neither group seemed to know what to do next. Captain Vexler broke the silence first. May we learn about your colony? He asked through the translation device. We have many questions, Quan nodded slowly. And we have many questions for you as well. Please follow me to our meeting hall. The aliens followed Quan with Jinha and Harin walking close behind. The other colonists moved aside, staring at the strange visitors with wide eyes. Some children pointed and whispered. A few older people wept quietly, overcome by the moment. The meeting hall was the largest building in New Hanseong. It had thick stone walls to keep out the summer heat and winter cold. Long wooden tables filled the room, handmade by the colony's craftspeople. Quan invited the aliens to sit. This building is impressive, said one of the aliens, a smaller one with green skin and 4 arms. The translator identified her as Dr. Thrix, the ship's scientist. Thank you, said Quan. Our ancestors built it 20 years after landing. It has been the heart of our community ever since. Captain Vexler looked around at the simple but sturdy construction. How many of you survived the crash? 142 people lived through the landing, Jinha answered. At least, that's what our records say. The ship was damaged beyond repair, but they saved what they could: tools, seeds, some technology. And now? Asked Dr. Thrix. We number just over 20,000, Harin said with pride. It hasn't been easy, but we've grown stronger with each generation. The aliens exchanged looks of surprise. Captain Vexler leaned forward. 20,000? From just 142 survivors? That's remarkable growth for such harsh conditions. Quan smiled slightly. We had no choice but to adapt. The first years were the hardest. Many died from sickness, hunger, or the planet's extreme weather, but those who lived learned quickly. Jinha stood up. Let me show you something. He walked to a large cabinet against the wall and pulled out an old, worn book. The cover was made of animal hide, carefully preserved. He placed it gently on the table in front of the aliens. This is the journal of Captain Lee, who commanded the Hope's Promise. He kept writing until his death, 15 years after the crash. Captain Vexler carefully opened the book. The pages were yellowed with age, filled with neat handwriting. Some pages had drawings, maps, plants, and strange animals. "We lost almost everything in the crash," Jinha explained as the alien captain read. "The ship's engines were destroyed. Most of our advanced technology failed within the first year. We had to start over using what little we had saved and what we could find on this planet." Dr. Thrix looked up from the book. "Yet you survived?" "More than survived. You thrived." "Not without cost," Harin said quietly. "The first winter, 30 people died. The second winter, 25 more. The soil here doesn't grow earth crops easily. The water has minerals that made people sick until we learned how to filter it. The local plants were mostly poisonous to us." "How did you overcome these challenges?" asked Captain Vexler. Quan's face showed a hint of pride. "We adapted. We changed. Each generation became stronger, more resistant to this world's dangers." Dr. Thrix's eyes widened. "Changed? Physically?" "Yes," said Jinha. "Our bodies are different from our ancestors. We can drink water that would have killed them. We can work longer in the sun without getting sick. Our bones are stronger." "That's not possible," Dr. Thrix said, her four hands moving in excitement. "Such adaptation should take thousands of years, not just a few generations." "And yet, here we are," Harin replied simply. Captain Vexler closed the journal carefully. "I would like to learn more about these changes, if you would permit it." Quan nodded. "Our medical building is this way. Rex, our head doctor, can show you what we've learned about ourselves." The medical building was smaller than the meeting hall, but just as well built. Inside, shelves lined the walls, filled with jars of dried plants and minerals. Clean tables stood in rows with simple but effective tools laid out neatly. Rex was a tall man with strong hands and kind eyes. He greeted the aliens without fear, curious about their different bodies. "You wish to know how we've changed?" he asked after introductions. "I can show you." He led them to a back room where several machines hummed quietly. They looked old but well-maintained, salvaged from the crashed ship, and kept working through 2 centuries of careful repairs. "This is our last working body scanner," Rex explained. "It can show the differences between us and our ancestors." He pressed some buttons, and a screen lit up showing 2 human body outlines side by side. The left image shows a normal human from Earth, based on our medical records. The right shows one of our young adults, born here. Dr. Thrix moved closer, her 4 eyes blinking rapidly as she studied the images. "The differences are ... significant. Bone density is 22% higher," Rex explained. "Skin is thicker and more resistant to radiation. Lung capacity is greater. The heart is stronger, and the brain..." He pointed to the head area. "The neural pathways are different. We process information faster." "This is impossible," Dr. Thrix whispered. "Such changes should take thousands of years of evolution or extreme pressure to adapt," Rex said. "When the choices change or die, the human body finds ways to survive." Captain Vexler studied the images carefully. "Without advanced medical technology, how did you achieve this?" "We didn't achieve it," Rex corrected. "It happened to us. Those who couldn't adapt didn't survive to have children. Those who could passed on their strengths. And with each generation we grew stronger." Jinha, who had been quiet, spoke up. "There's something else you should know. Something we discovered about this planet." The aliens turned to him, waiting. "This world changes things," Jinha said simply. "Not just us. Everything that lives here too long starts to evolve faster. We don't know why. Our scientists have theories about radiation or minerals in the soil and water, but we don't have the tools to prove them." Captain Vexler looked troubled. "You're saying this planet somehow accelerates evolution?" "Yes," Harin confirmed. The Local animals change too. We've watched species adapt within just a few generations. Plants develop new defenses against pests in just a few growing seasons. Dr. Thrix was typing rapidly on her own device. This could explain the readings our ship detected when we entered orbit. There are energy patterns here unlike anything in our database. Rex nodded. We felt it all along. This world is ... special, different. It changed us, but it also saved us. Captain Vexler turned to Quan. I must report this discovery to the Confederation. A planet that can accelerate evolution could be incredibly valuable or incredibly dangerous. This is our home, Quan said firmly. We've paid for it with the lives of our ancestors. Whatever you report, remember that. The alien captain nodded slowly. Of course. But there is more I need to see to understand what has happened here. There is much more to show you, Jinha agreed. But first, you should see how we live. How we've built a life here despite everything. As they left the medical building, Harin pointed to the fields where people were returning to work, trying to act normal despite the alien ship sitting at the edge of their colony. We may have changed, she said, but we're still human. We still hope, dream, love, and build. We still look up at the stars and wonder what's out there. Captain Vexler looked at the simple but effective community these humans had created. And now you know, he said quietly, the galaxy is full of life. And after all this time, you're not alone anymore. The afternoon sun cast long shadows as Jinha led the aliens through the colony. People had returned to their work, but they watched the visitors with curious eyes. Children followed at a distance, giggling and pointing at the strange beings. This is our main farming area, Jinha explained, showing them rows of plants that look similar to earth crops but with subtle differences. We call this grain new wheat. It started as earth wheat, but over generations it changed to survive here. Dr. Thrix bent down to examine the plants. The structure is fascinating. It has developed natural defenses against local insects. Yes, Harin said. The first crops failed completely. But each season we save seeds from the strongest plants. After about 50 years, our crops stopped dying. Captain Vexler looked impressed. 50 years is nothing in terms of plant evolution. It should take thousands. Everything changes faster here, Jinha repeated. We don't fully understand why. They walked past a group of workers harvesting vegetables. The humans moved with surprising speed and strength, lifting heavy baskets with ease. Captain Vexler noticed that even the older workers showed no signs of slowing down. Your people seem very healthy, he observed. Quan nodded. We live longer than our ancestors did. Our records show that the first generation typically lived to about 70 years. Now, many of us reach 120. Impossible, Dr. Thrix muttered. But she didn't sound convinced of her own objection anymore. They approached a large building with smoke rising from several chimneys. The sound of hammering and the glow of fire came from inside. This is our workshop, Ja explained. We make our tools here. Inside, men and women worked at forges and tables. They were making farm tools, building materials, and parts for the colony's machines. One woman was carefully fixing what looked like a piece of the original ship, her hands moving with incredible precision. You maintain technology from the crash? Captain Vexler asked. We try, Jinha said. Most of it failed long ago, but we've kept some things working. We've also built new machines based on the old designs. The woman working on the ship part looked up. Jinha, is this them, the aliens? Jinha nodded. Yes, this is Captain Vexler and Dr. Thrix. This is Su Min, our best engineer. Su Min wiped her hands on her apron and stood up. Welcome to New Henxiang. I've been hoping to meet beings from other worlds my whole life. Dr. Thrix moved closer to see what Su Min was working on. This is part of a communication system, isn't it? Yes, Su Min confirmed, from the original ship. We've kept it working. Hoping someday we might contact someone, she smiled. I guess we don't need it anymore. Now that you're here, may I? Dr. Thrix asked, reaching for the device. Su Min handed it over. The alien examined it carefully, her 4 eyes blinking in. "Surprise! This is remarkably well maintained," Dr. Thrick said. "But you've modified it. These circuits weren't in the original design. We had to adapt it to work with the materials we have here," Sumin explained. "The original parts wore out long ago." Captain Vexler looked around the workshop. "You've, accomplished much with limited resources." "Necessity is a powerful teacher," Juan said. "When survival depends on solving a problem, humans become very creative." As they left the workshop, Jinha led them toward a hill at the edge of the colony. "There's something else you should see." The climb was steep, but the humans moved up. Easily, the aliens struggled more with the rough terrain. At the top, Jinha stopped and pointed to the horizon dot in the distance. Half buried in the earth and covered with growing plants lay the massive shape of a spaceship. Even mostly covered, it was clearly enormous, much larger than the aliens. "Vessel, the Hope's Promise," Jinha said quietly. "Our ancestors' ship?" "Most of it was destroyed in the crash, but the main hull survived." Captain Vexler stared at the distant wreck. "It's much larger than I expected." "It was a colony ship," Harin explained, "designed to carry 5,000 people to a new world, but most of the sleep chambers failed during the journey. Only a few hundred people survived. We still use parts of it," Jinha added. "The lower sections are intact. We've turned them into storage and research areas." "Research?" Dr. Thrix asked, her interest clearly piqued. Jinha and Quan exchanged a look. After a moment, Quan nodded. "Yes," Jinha said. "We study ourselves and this planet. We try to understand why we've changed so quickly. Come, I'll show you." The walk to the crashed ship took nearly an hour. As they got closer, the aliens could see that the humans had built a small settlement around the wreck. People moved in and out of openings cut into the hull. "We call this place Old Home," Harin said. "Many of our scientists live and work here." They entered through a large door cut into the side of the ship. Inside, the metal corridors were lit by a combination of natural light from cut openings and simple electric lights. The air was cool and dry. "The ship's power core still works?" Captain Vexler asked in surprise. "No," Jinha replied. "It failed decades ago. We built our own power systems based on its design." They walked deeper into the ship, passing rooms filled with equipment. Some looked like they came from the original ship, while others were clearly built by the colonists. People in simple lab coats nodded respectfully as the group passed. Finally, they reached a large chamber that must have once been the ship's main control room. Now it was filled with research equipment. A tall man was studying something under a microscope. "Rex," Quan called. "Our visitors want to see our research." Rex looked up and smiled. "Of course. I was just examining the latest blood samples." He gestured for them to approach. "Look here," he said, stepping aside so Dr. Thrix could use the microscope. The alien scientist bent down to look, then jerked back in surprise. "These cells, they're changing as I watch." "Yes," Rex said calmly. "Our cells adapt much faster than normal human cells. We can actually observe the changes happening." He picked up a small container with a plant inside. "It's not just us. All life on this planet evolves rapidly. This seedling was planted 10 days ago. On Earth, it would be barely sprouting. Here, it's already developing its first true leaves." Dr. Thrix took the container, examining the plant with wonder. "This defies everything we know about biology. We think it's something in the planet itself," Rex explained. "Perhaps in the soil or the air, maybe radiation from the star. We don't have the equipment to know for sure." Captain Vexler had been quiet, taking everything in. Now he spoke. "The Confederation has never encountered anything like this. A planet that accelerates evolution could change our understanding of life itself." "It's more than that," Jinha said. "Show them, Rex." Rex nodded and walked to a sealed door at the back of the room. He pressed his hand to a scanner, and the door slid open. Inside was a smaller room with a single table. On it lay what looked like a piece of metal, but it moved slightly, as if breathing. "What is that?" Captain Vexler asked, stepping back. We call it the Visitor, Rex said. We found it near the crash site, buried in the ground. We think it was here long before we arrived. Dr. Thrix moved closer, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. It's alive? In a way, Rex confirmed. It responds to stimuli, it grows very slowly, and it changes things that stay near it. Changes them how? Captain Vexler asked. It speeds up the evolution process even more than the planet does naturally, Jinha explained. We think it might be the source of the planet's unusual properties. Or maybe it's just affected by the same thing that affects everything else here. Captain Vexler stared at the strange object. This could be the most important discovery in centuries. It's why we've survived, Quan said simply. Without the changes it helped cause in us, we would have died out long ago. The alien captain turned to face the humans. The Confederation will want to study this planet and this visitor. They may want to bring more scientists here. Jinha's expression grew serious. This is our home, Captain. We fought hard for it. We won't give it up. No one is asking you to, Captain Vexler assured him. But you must understand you've been isolated for centuries. The galaxy has changed. There are dangers you know nothing about. And there are dangers here that you know nothing about, Haring countered. We've adapted to survive them. Have you? The question hung in the air between them, a gentle reminder that on this world, the humans were the ones who belonged. The aliens were the visitors in a place where the rules of life itself seemed to be different. Night fell over New Hanxiang. The aliens had been given rooms in the colony's guest building, a simple but comfortable place usually used for people visiting from distant parts of the settlement. Captain Vexler stood by the window looking out. At the unfamiliar stars? This planet's sky was different from any he had seen before. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Jinha entered, carrying a small lamp. I hope you're comfortable, Jinha said. I know our accommodations are simple compared to what you're used to. They are more than adequate, Captain Vexler assured him. Your people have been very kind. Jinha nodded. There's something else I want to show you. Something important. If you're not too tired? The alien captain's curiosity was piqued. Not at all. Lead the way. They walked through the quiet colony. Most people were already in their homes for the night. The only sounds were the soft chirping of local insects and the distant call of night. Animals in the hills. Jinha led Captain Vexler to a large building near the center of the colony. Unlike most of the other structures, this one was made entirely of stone with a heavy metal door. What is this place? Captain Vexler asked. We call it the Archives, Jinha replied, unlocking the door. It's the most important building in New Hanxiang. Inside, the air was cool and dry. Jinha lit more lamps, revealing rows upon rows of shelves. Each shelf held books, thousands of them, carefully bound and labeled. Books? Captain Vexler asked, surprised. You keep your records on paper? Paper lasts, Jinha explained. Electronic storage fails. Our ancestors learned that lesson early. These books contain everything we know, everything we've learned, everything we've experienced since landing on this world. He walked to a nearby shelf and pulled down a volume. This is the journal of my great-grandmother. Every person in the colony keeps a journal from the time they can write. When they die, their journals come here. Captain Vexler carefully took the book. The pages were filled with neat handwriting, along with drawings of plants and animals. Every person? He asked. For 200 years? Yes, Jinha confirmed. We have the story of every life lived here. Every discovery, every birth, every death all recorded. The alien captain looked around at the thousands of books with new understanding. This is your people's entire history. More than that, Jinha said. It's our survival. Knowledge keeps us alive. He led Captain Vexler deeper into the archives. At the back of the building was a smaller room with a large table. Haring was already there, along with an older man the captain hadn't met before. This is Rex, Jinha introduced them. He's our colony's historian, Rex nodded in greeting. Welcome, Captain, Jinha said you might appreciate seeing our most precious records. On the table lay several very old books, their covers worn but carefully preserved. Rex opened one gently. These are the journals of our first leaders, he explained. The people who survived the crash and established our colony. Captain Vexler leaned forward to see better. The pages were yellowed with age, but the writing was still clear. Day 47 after crash, Rex read aloud. We buried 6 more people today. The sickness is spreading. Our medicines are almost gone. Dr. Kim says we must find local plants with healing properties, but everything we've tried so far has made the sick worse. I fear we may not survive the year. He turned the page. Day 53, a miracle. 3 of the sick have recovered. Their fevers broke suddenly. Dr. Kim says their bodies somehow adapted to fight the illness. We don't understand how, but we are grateful. The first sign of the changes, Harin said quietly. Rex nodded and turned more pages. Day 112. The first crops have failed completely. The soil here rejects earth plants. We have food for perhaps 2 months. After that, He paused. After that, we face starvation unless we find local food sources we can eat. Captain Vexler listened intently. Yet you survived. Barely, Rex said. Listen to this entry. 6 months later, we have lost 38 people to hunger. Those who remain are weak. But today, Researcher Park made a discovery. One of our test crops has begun to grow. It's changing, adapting to the soil here. If we can keep it alive, if we can harvest seeds, we might have a chance. Jinha pointed to another book. This one records the first birth on this planet, a girl named S.A.O. Yun. She was different from the beginning, stronger. Her cells showed the first major changes from Earth-human baseline. The beginning of your evolution, Captain Vexler said. Yes, Harin confirmed. Each generation adapted more. Children born here could eat foods that made their parents sick. They could stay in the sun longer without burning. Their bones healed faster when broken. Rex opened another book. This records the first time we realized what was happening. 70 years after landing, our scientists finally understood that we were changing, becoming something new. Captain Vexler carefully turned the pages of the journal in front of him. Your ancestors faced impossible odds. By all logic, you should have died out within the first year. Logic doesn't account for human determination, Jaha said with a small smile, or for this planet's strange properties. The alien captain looked up. You've created something remarkable here. Not just a colony, but a complete record of human adaptation and survival. We had to, Rex explained. Our ancestors knew they might be the last humans in the galaxy. They were determined that humanity's story wouldn't end with them. Harin touched one of the old books gently. Each person who writes their story adds to our understanding. Each observation, each experience helps us learn more about this world and ourselves. Captain Vexler was quiet for a moment, taking in the enormity of what these humans had accomplished. In the Confederation, we have vast digital libraries containing the knowledge of 100 species, but this, he gestured to the room full of handwritten books. This has a power those libraries lack. These are not just facts. These are lives. That's why we brought you here, Junha said. So you could understand who we are, what we've become. Rex pulled down another volume from a nearby shelf. This might interest you most, Captain. It contains our observations of the visitor and its effects. The book was newer than the others, its pages filled with detailed drawings and careful notes. Captain Vexler studied the images of the strange metal-like object they had shown him earlier. Your people have been studying it for generations. He observed. Yes, Rex confirmed. At first, we didn't understand what it was. We just knew that plants grew faster near it, and people who spent time around it seemed to adapt more quickly to the planet. He turned to a page showing a series of cell drawings. These show how human cells change when exposed to the visitor. The changes happen in minutes, not years. Captain Vexler's eyes widened. This contradicts everything we know about biology. We think the visitor isn't from this galaxy, Jinha said. Maybe not even from this universe. It doesn't follow the same rules as other life. What makes you think it's not from here? The captain asked. Haran pointed to another book. This contains the story of the second finding. 80 years after we landed, our people discovered another crash site. Not human, Captain Vexler looked up sharply. Another ship? Alien? Yes, Jinha confirmed, much older than our ship. It had been here for thousands of years. Inside, we found writing we couldn't read and technology we didn't understand, but there were drawings of the visitor. Rex opened the book to show images of strange symbols and sketches of devices unlike anything the captain had seen before. Whoever they were, Rex said, they came here studying the visitor, just like us. And like us, their ship crashed. We think this planet pulls ships off course somehow. Captain Vexler felt a chill run down his spine. You're saying we might not be able to leave? Your ship is different, Harin assured him. The crashes happened to ships using older drive systems. We've studied the wreckage. We think we understand why they failed. The alien captain wasn't entirely convinced. I should warn my crew to run diagnostics on our engines. A wise precaution, Jinha agreed. But there's something else you should know. He exchanged looks with Haran and Rex before continuing. We found evidence of at least 5 different crashed ships on this planet, from 5 different species. None of them were known to us from our Earth records. Captain Vexler stared at them. 5 different alien species, all crashed here? Yes, Rex said. All drawn to this world, perhaps by the same thing that pulled our ancestors off course, all trapped here, just like us. And all changed by this planet, Harin added. We found remains. They showed signs of rapid evolution, just like we experienced. The alien captain looked around at the archives with new understanding. These books didn't just tell the story of human survival. They told the story of a planet that seemed to collect lost travelers from across the stars, a place where the normal rules of life and evolution didn't apply. Tomorrow, Jinnah said, we'll show you the other crash sites. Then you'll understand why we believe this planet is special and dangerous. Morning came with a soft golden light spreading across New Hanseong. Captain Vexler met Jinha outside the guest building as they had planned. Dr. Thrix joined them, along with 2 more members of the alien crew who had come down from the ship overnight. These are my science officers, Zrel and Mika, Captain Vexler introduced them. I thought they should see what you're going to show us. Double quotes? Jinha nodded in greeting. We'll be traveling some distance today. We've prepared transportation. He led them to the edge of the colony where 4 large vehicles waited. They looked like a cross between tractors and military transports with big wheels and strong metal bodies. Haran stood beside one, checking. Something under the hood. You built these? Dr. Thrix asked, clearly impressed. Yes, Haran replied, closing the hood. We call them land runners. They can handle any terrain on the planet. Quan approached, accompanied by a tall, strong-looking man the aliens hadn't met before. This is Jack Morrison, Quan introduced him. He's our defense coordinator. He'll be leading us today. Jack nodded to the aliens. His face was serious, with a long scar running down one cheek. The journey will take about 3 hours. The terrain gets rough as we approach the mountains. Mountains? Captain Vexler asked. I thought we were going to see crash sites. We are, Jinha confirmed. But first, there's something else you need to see. Something that might explain why this planet is so unusual. They climbed into the vehicles. The engines roared too. Life, surprisingly powerful for machines built with limited resources. Soon they were moving away from the colony, heading toward a range of mountains visible in the distance. As they traveled, the landscape changed. The farmland gave way to wild grasslands, then to rocky terrain with strange, twisted trees. The aliens looked out the windows with interest, noting how different the plant life was from anything they had seen before. The plants here evolved quickly too, Harin explained as she drove. Some of these species didn't exist when our ancestors landed. They've developed in just 200 years. After about 2 hours of travel, Jack, who was leading in the first vehicle, raised his hand and stopped. Everyone got out to stretch their legs. Look there, Jack said, pointing to a nearby hillside. At first, The aliens saw nothing unusual. Then Captain Vexler noticed a pattern in the rocks that didn't seem natural, too straight, too regular. "What is that?" he asked. "Watch," Jack replied. He pulled out a small device and pressed a button. The ground rumbled slightly. Then, to the alien's shock, a section of the hillside slid open, revealing a metal door large enough to drive a vehicle through. "What is this?" Captain Vexler demanded, his voice sharp with surprise. "One of our defense outposts," Jack explained calmly. "We have them positioned throughout the territory surrounding our colony." The aliens stared in disbelief. What they had thought was a simple human settlement suddenly seemed much more complex. "Defense against what?" Dr. Thrix asked. "Come inside," Jinha said. "We'll show you." They walked through the large door into a cool, dimly lit space carved into the hillside. As their eyes adjusted, the aliens saw that they were in a large chamber filled with equipment. Some of it looked like weapons, but of a design Captain Vexler had never seen before. "You built all this?" he asked, his voice hushed. "Yes and no," Jack replied. "Our ancestors salvaged what they could from the ship. The rest we built ourselves, based partly on what we found in the other crash sites." He led them deeper into the facility. Screens on the walls showed different areas around the colony. People sat at control panels, monitoring the displays. "This is just one of 12 similar outposts," Jack explained. "Together they form a defensive perimeter around our territory." "But why?" asked Zrel, one of the science officers. "What are you defending against? You said you were alone on this planet?" Jinha and Jack exchanged looks. Then Jinha spoke. "We are the only intelligent life currently on the planet, as far as we know, but this world has visitors from time to time." "What kind of visitors?" Captain Vexler asked. Instead of answering directly, Jack led them to a large screen at the center of the room. He pressed some buttons and an image appeared, a recording from some years earlier. Judging by the date stamp, the aliens watched in silence as the recording showed a strange light in the sky. Moving in ways that defied normal physics, it hovered over an area not far from the colony, then shot a beam of energy at the ground. Where the beam hit, the earth seemed to change, the plants twisting and growing at impossible speeds. "What is that?" Dr. Thrix whispered. "We don't know," Jack admitted. "They come every few years. They never land, never communicate. They just observe, and sometimes they change things." "Change things how?" asked Mika, the other science officer. "They accelerate the evolution process even more than the planet naturally does," Harin explained. "Areas they've targeted sea plant and animal life changing within days instead of years." Captain Vexler stared at the recording. "And you built these defenses to protect yourselves from them?" "Yes," Jinha confirmed. "About 70 years ago, they targeted an area where some of our people were working. 23 colonists were caught in the beam. They changed rapidly. Most died within hours. The few who survived were never the same." The aliens fell silent, processing this information. What had seemed like a simple story of survival was becoming something much more complex and disturbing. "There's more," Jack said. He pressed more buttons, and the screen changed to show a different recording. This one showed what looked like a massive machine, half buried in the side of a mountain several miles from their current location. "What is that?" Captain Vexler asked. "We call it the Heart," Jack replied. "It's the largest alien artifact we've found on the planet. It was here long before we arrived, thousands, maybe millions of years old." The recording zoomed in to show details of the machine. It had a design unlike anything the aliens had seen before, with curves and angles that seemed to defy normal geometry. "Is it div?" Dr. Thrix asked. "Yes," Jinha said. "It powers everything, our defense grid, our research facilities, even some of the colony's basic systems. We learned how to connect to it about 100 years ago." Captain Vexler looked shocked. "You're drawing power from an alien artifact you don't understand?" "We understand it better than you might think," Harin countered. "We've had 2 centuries to study it, and without it we wouldn't have survived." Jack nodded. "The Heart doesn't just provide power. It seems to protect the planet somehow. We think it might be what causes ships to crash here, but it also shields us from the worst effects of the visitors' experiments. This technology, Dr. Thrix whispered, examining the images more closely. It's beyond anything in the Confederation. The energy readings alone are impossible. We get that word a lot from you, Jinha said with a small smile. Impossible, yet here we are. Captain Vexler turned to face the humans. Why are you showing us all this? This kind of technology would be valuable to many in the galaxy. Some might try to take it by force. We know, Quan said, speaking for the first time since they'd entered the facility. That's why we're showing you. So you understand what you're dealing with. He gestured around the room. These defenses aren't just for the visitors from the sky. They're for anyone who might threaten our home. The heart powers weapons that could destroy your ship in seconds if we felt threatened. The alien captain stared at him. Is that a threat? No, Jinha said quickly. It's just the truth. We want peaceful contact with the galaxy. We want to learn about what's happened since our ancestors lost contact with Earth, but we need you to understand that we can protect ourselves. Jack pressed another button, and the screen changed to show a map of the planet. 12 points of light marked the defense outposts, forming a perfect circle around the colony. When you're cut off from the galaxy, he explained, you either innovate or die. We chose to innovate. Dr. Thrix was still studying the images of the heart. This technology could revolutionize energy production across the Confederation. If we could study it, that's not why we're showing you, Harin interrupted. We're showing you so you understand that this planet is not just another world to be claimed or exploited. It's special, dangerous, and it's our home. Captain Vexler was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he nodded slowly. I understand, and I respect your position. The Confederation does not claim worlds that are already inhabited. Your colony's rights will be recognized. Thank you, Quan said. Now, if you're ready, we'll take you to see the first crash site. It's not far from here. As they left the defense outpost, Captain Vexler fell into step beside Jinha. You've, built something remarkable here, he said quietly. Not just a colony, but a new kind of human society. Jinha looked at him. We had no choice. This world changed us. We either adapted or died. The Confederation has never encountered anything like this before, the captain admitted. A planet that changes life itself, ancient technology beyond. Our understanding and humans who have evolved into something more. We're still human, Jinha insisted. Just different, Captain Vexler nodded. Different, yes. But perhaps that's what humanity needed to survive in a galaxy that thought you were extinct. The landrunners climbed higher into the mountains, following a path that seemed barely wide enough for the vehicles. On either side, steep cliffs dropped away into deep valleys. Strange plants with purple and blue leaves clung to the rocks, their roots somehow finding purchase in the hard stone. How much farther? Captain Vexler asked, looking out the window at the difficult terrain. Not far now, Jinha replied from the driver's seat. The first crash site is just beyond that ridge. They crested the hill, and the path opened into a wide plateau. Jinha stopped the vehicle, and everyone climbed out. The air was thinner here, and the alien visitors breathed more deeply to adjust. There, Jinha said, pointing to the far side of the plateau. At first, the aliens saw nothing unusual. Then, as they walked closer, they realized that what they had taken for natural rock formations were actually the remains of a massive ship. Time and weather had worn away much of the outer hull, and local plants had grown over it, but the basic shape was still visible, a craft at least 3 times larger than the luminous seeker. This is not a human vessel, Captain Vexler said, studying the strange curves and angles of the wreckage. No, Jinha confirmed. We call them the first visitors. Their ship crashed here approximately 5,000 years ago, according to our best estimates. Dr. Thrix moved closer to examine a section of exposed hull. The metal composition is unlike anything I've seen before. And these markings? She traced her fingers over strange symbols etched into the surface. We've been trying to decipher their language for generations, Harin explained. We've made some progress, but much of it remains a mystery. Jack led them to an opening in the side of the wreck. This way, watch your step. Inside, the ship was dark and cool. Jack activated lights attached to his belt, and the others did the same. The beams illuminated a vast chamber with high ceilings and walls covered in the same strange symbols they had seen outside. This was their control room, we think, Jack said. Most of their technology was destroyed in the crash or has decayed over time, but something survived. He led them to a raised platform at the center of the room. On it sat a device that looked something like a star chart, with glowing points of light suspended in a three-dimensional display. This still works after thousands of years? Zrel asked in amazement. Yes, Jinha said. Whatever power source they used, it's incredibly long-lasting. We've learned a lot from studying it. Captain Vexler approached the device carefully. This shows star systems, he observed, but not ones I recognize. We think it shows their home galaxy, Harin explained. Not ours. The first visitors may have come from much farther away than we imagined. Dr. Thrix was examining other parts of the room. These beings were far more advanced than any species in the Confederation. The technology here is extraordinary. Yes, Jinha agreed. But that's not why we brought you here. He turned to Jack. Show them. Jack nodded and led them deeper into the ship. They passed through narrow corridors and more large chambers, some filled with equipment whose purpose they could only guess at. Finally, they reached a small room at the very heart of the vessel. Inside was a single pedestal. On it lay an object that looked like a piece of metal, similar to the visitor they had seen in the colony, but larger and more complex. Another visitor? Captain Vexler asked. We think they're connected, Jinha explained. This one is older, more developed. We call it the Source. Dr. Thrix moved closer, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. It's the same material as the smaller one? Yes, Harin confirmed. But this one is more active. Watch. She approached the pedestal and held her hand about a foot above the strange object. To the alien's shock, the Source seemed to respond, rippling like liquid metal and extending a thin tendril upward toward her hand. It reacts to life, Jinha explained, especially to humans. We don't know why. Harin stepped back and the tendril retreated. We think the first visitors came here specifically to study the Source. Their records suggest they found it somewhere else and brought it here for research. But why here? Captain Vexler asked. Why this planet? Because of what's beneath us, Jack said. He pressed a button on a device at his belt, and a holographic image appeared in the air between them. It showed a cross-section of the planet, with something massive at its core, not the normal molten center a planet should have, but a solid structure with a distinct pattern. The entire planet is artificial, Jinha said quietly. Or at least it was built around something artificial. The heart we showed you earlier is just one small part of a much larger system. The alien stared at the hologram in disbelief. Captain Vexler was the first to find his voice. That's impossible. A constructed planet? No species could accomplish such a thing. We thought the same, Harin said, but the evidence is clear. This world wasn't formed naturally. It was built billions of years ago by a civilization far more advanced than any we can imagine. Dr. Thrix studied the hologram with wide eyes. The energy required to construct something on this scale, it's beyond calculation. We think the planet was built as a research station, Jaha continued, a place to study the Source and objects like it. The first visitors weren't the first to come here. There have been others, many others, over millions of years. Jack gestured around them. This is just one of 7 crash sites we've found. 7 different species, from 7 different time periods, all drawn to this world to study the Source. And all trapped here when their ships crashed, Harin added. Just like our ancestors, Captain Vexler looked troubled. You said there were 7 crash sites. You mentioned 5 earlier. Jinha nodded. We found two more since then. One is very old, perhaps 1,000,000 years. The other... He hesitated. The other is more recent, about 50 years ago. What species? The captain asked. We don't know, Jinha admitted. They weren't in any of our records from Earth, and they were different from the others. Different how? Dr. Thrix asked. They were still alive when we found them, Harin said quietly. But changed, like the colonists who were caught in the beam from the sky visitors. Their bodies had evolved rapidly and drastically. They didn't survive long after we found them. The aliens fell silent, processing this disturbing information. Captain Vexler looked at the source with new wariness. This object, he said finally. You believe it's what causes the accelerated evolution on this planet? Yes, Jinha confirmed. It affects all life that comes near it. The longer you stay on this planet, the more it changes you. Then we could be changing right now, Zarel sighed, a note of fear in his voice. Not quickly, Harin assured him. The effects take time for most species, and some seem more susceptible than others. Humans are particularly responsive to it, Jinha added. More so than any other species we've found records of. That's why we've changed so much in just a few centuries. Captain Vexler turned to face Jinha directly. Why are you showing us all this? This information could be dangerous in the wrong hands. Because you need to understand what you found, Jinha replied simply. This isn't just a lost human colony. It's something much more significant. He walked to the edge of the room and pressed his hand against a section of wall. A panel slid open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a small device similar in design to the star chart they had seen earlier. This contains everything we've learned about the source, the planet, and the beings who built it, Jinha explained. We want you to take it to your Confederation. They need to know what exists here, Captain Vexler stared at the device. This could be the most important discovery in the history of the Confederation. We know, Harin said. That's why we trust you to handle it responsibly. Jack stepped forward. But understand this, Captain. We're not giving you our world. We're sharing knowledge. This planet remains our home, under our protection. The alien captain nodded slowly. I understand. And I give you my word that the Confederation will respect your sovereignty. Jinha picked up the device and handed it to Captain Vexler. There's one more thing you should know. The source isn't just a scientific curiosity. We believe it's part of something larger, a network that spans the galaxy, perhaps even beyond. What kind of network? Dr. Thrix asked. We're not sure, Jinha admitted. But the star charts in the first visitor's ship show other planets with similar structures at their cores. We think this world is one node in a vast system built by whoever created the source. For what purpose? Captain Vexler asked. Jinha looked at the strange object on the pedestal, its surface still rippling, slightly as if alive. That, he said quietly, is what we've been trying to discover for 200 years. 3 days had passed since the visit to the crash site. The aliens had spent that time examining the data Jinha had given them, taking samples from around the colony and sending reports back to their ship in orbit. Now, on the morning of their planned departure, the entire colony had gathered in the central square. Captain Vexler stood on a small platform, facing the assembled humans. Behind him were Dr. Thrix and the other members of his crew who had come to the surface. Jinha, Harin, Quan, Jack, and Rex stood nearby, representing the colony's leadership. People of New Hanseong, Captain Vexler began, his translator converting his words for all to hear. On behalf of the Galactic Confederation, I thank you for your hospitality and openness. What we have discovered here is beyond anything we expected. He paused, looking out at the sea of faces. Children sat on their parents' shoulders to see better. Older colonists leaned on walking sticks, their faces weathered by years of hard work, but their eyes still bright and alert. The Confederation believed humans were extinct, the captain continued. The loss of Earth and its colonies during the Great Collapse was one of the greatest tragedies in our recorded history. To find that humanity has survived and thrived is a discovery that will change how we view the galaxy. A murmur ran through the crowd. Many of these people had grown up believing they might be the last humans in existence. The confirmation that Earth was indeed gone brought both sadness and a sense of responsibility. "I have been authorized to extend an official invitation," Captain Vexler announced. "The Confederation offers you full membership as a sovereign world. We can provide technology, medicine, and protection. We can help you reconnect with the wider galaxy." He gestured to his crew. "We can begin evacuation immediately for any who wish to leave this planet. There are established worlds where you would be welcomed, places where you could live without the hardships you've endured here." The crowd began to talk among themselves. Some looked excited at the prospect of seeing other worlds. Others seemed uncertain or even afraid. Jinha stepped forward. "Thank you, Captain. We appreciate your offer. But before anyone decides, there are things our people should know." He turned to face the colonists. "The captain has confirmed what our ancestors feared. Earth is gone. The homeworld of humanity was destroyed in the collapse. The colonies we knew of were lost as well." A sad silence fell over the crowd. Even though most had suspected this truth, hearing it confirmed was still painful. "But," Jinha continued, "humanity survived elsewhere too. There are human settlements on several worlds within the Confederation. We are not the last." This news brought visible relief to many faces. Haran stepped forward to stand beside Jinha. "The captain has also confirmed something else," she said. "Our world is unique. The changes we've experienced, the evolution we've undergone, these things make us different from other humans. Our bodies have adapted to this planet in ways that might make it difficult for us to live elsewhere." Dr. Thrix moved to join them. "This is correct," she said. "Our tests show that your physiology has changed significantly. Your bodies possess certain minerals that would be toxic to other humans. You require higher radiation levels than most habitable planets provide. Your cellular structure is more resilient, but also more dependent on this world's specific environment." Quan spoke. "Next, what this means is that leaving might not be simple. Some of us could adapt to other worlds, especially the younger ones. Others might become sick or weak if they left." The crowd grew quiet again, processing this information. A young woman near the front raised her hand. "Are you saying we're trapped here?" "No," Captain Vexler answered. "We have medical technology. That could help with the transition." "It would be difficult, but not impossible," an older man spoke up. "And what about the source? What about the visitors from the sky? Would we be leaving this planet unprotected?" Jack stepped forward to address this concern. "That's an important question. This world contains things of great value and potential danger. If we all left, who would ensure these things didn't fall into the wrong hands?" Rex, who had been quiet until now, moved to the center of the platform. "For 200 years we have been the guardians of this place. We have learned its secrets, adapted to its dangers, and made it our home. That is not a responsibility we can simply abandon." Captain Vexler nodded in understanding. "No one is asking you to abandon your home. The choice belongs to each of you. The Confederation recognizes your claim to this world. We offer partnership, not conquest." Jinha looked out at his people. "We need to decide together what our future will be. Some may wish to leave, to see the stars our ancestors came from. Others may choose to stay, to continue the work we've begun here. Both choices are valid." Haran added, "Whatever we decide, we should remember what has kept us alive all these years: our unity, our determination, and our ability to adapt." The discussion continued for hours. People asked questions about life in the Confederation, about the dangers of leaving, about what would happen to those who stayed. The alien visitors answered patiently, providing as much information as they could. As the sun began to set, Quan called for a vote. "Those who wish to leave with the Confederation, stand to my right. Those who wish to remain, stand to my left." Slowly, the colonists began to move. Families discussed in hushed voices, sometimes splitting as older children chose differently than their parents. Friends embraced before separating to different sides. When everyone had chosen, the result was clear. About 1/3 of the colony, had decided to leave. The rest would stay. Jinha nodded, accepting the decision. So be it. Those who go will carry our knowledge and our story to the stars. Those who remain will continue to protect this world and unlock its secrets. Captain Vexler stepped forward again. We will arrange for transport for those leaving. It will take several days to prepare. Jinha turned to the captain. There's one more thing we need to discuss in private. Later that evening, Jinha, Harin, Quan, Jack, and Rex met with Captain Vexler and Dr. Thrix in the colony's meeting hall. On the table between them lay a small device unlike anything the aliens had seen before. What is this? Captain Vexler asked. The solution to the wormhole collapse that isolated Earth centuries ago, Jinha replied simply. We solved that problem. 50 years ago, the alien captain stared in shock. You could have left at any time? Jinha smiled. We weren't ready yet. But now, perhaps the galaxy is ready for us. He activated the device and a holographic display appeared above the table, showing a complex network of energy pathways. The Great Collapse wasn't an accident, Jinha explained. It was caused by interference from the same network that this planet is part of. The ancient builders created pathways between stars, pathways that our ancestors accidentally tapped into when they developed wormhole technology. You're saying the wormhole network humans used was actually connecting to something much older? Dr. Thrix asked, her scientific curiosity fully engaged. Yes, Harin confirmed. When too many ships used these pathways at once, it created a feedback loop that collapsed the entire system. But we figured out how to stabilize the connection. Captain Vexler looked at the device with new respect. This technology could revolutionize interstellar travel throughout the Confederation. We know, Quan said. That's why we're sharing it with you. But we have conditions. Jack leaned forward. This planet remains under our protection. Any research into the source, or the planet's core, must include our scientists. And the technology we're giving you must be used for peaceful purposes only, the alien captain nodded slowly. These terms are reasonable. The Confederation will agree to them. Rex spoke up. There's one more thing. We want to establish contact with the other human settlements you mentioned. Our people should know each other again. Of course, Captain Vexler agreed. We will arrange it. Jinha pushed the device across the table to the captain. Then we have an agreement. A new beginning for humanity in the galaxy. As Captain Vexler took the device, he looked at the humans with newfound respect. When we found this colony, we thought we were discovering a lost remnant of a forgotten species. Instead, we found humanity reborn stronger, wiser, and more remarkable than ever before, Harin smiled. We had to become more to survive here. This world changed us, challenged us, nearly killed us, but in the end, it made us better. And now, Jinha said, looking out the window at the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky, we're ready to return to the galaxy. Not as the humans who left Earth centuries ago, but as something new, a humanity that has faced extinction and refused to die, Captain Vexler nodded. The galaxy will never be the same again. As the meeting ended and they stepped outside, the colony was alive with activity. Those who had chosen to leave were preparing for their journey. Those staying behind were already making plans for the future of New Henseong. Jinha stood with Harin, watching their people. Do you think we made the right choice? He asked quietly, revealing everything to them. Harin took his hand. The time for hiding is over. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together, those who leave and those who stay. That's what humans do. We adapt, we survive, we thrive. Above them, the stars shone brightly in the alien sky stars that would soon be within reach again.